Hello, welcome to this gorgeous premium guest interview. Now, I am so excited to introduce my next guests for this edition of the House of Preeminence. Remember that the House of Preeminence is the online magazine and platform that showcases the people, the conversations, the topics that allow you to live your best life ever, even in this crazy world we're living in. And why I'm so excited today is our guests are very atypical because they are not from the conventional personal development world that you're used to here. However, you will see how much transformation is in their work. I'm happy because I have a rock and roll soul. And I realized when I connected with these guys that my rock and roll soul wants to live more. And I hope that presenting these guys that you are going to want to connect with your rock and roll soul as well. So welcome to these guys have been in the music industry for many, many years. They have performed on huge stages, huge arenas. They have performed with Pink and Rod Stewart and some other greats. And they made a big decision to transform their life and their musical journey. And we're going to be talking about that and what that actually means for you. So, welcome the brothers Koren.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
having us.
much, Jenny. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
We're so
So,
honored.
yeah, so Isaac and Thorald.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
you're based in the States, of Australian origin. Now, I've been scurrying around your website and looking at your YouTube videos, and you have a gorgeous, gorgeous musical energy, and I would love to know what was happening when you were in that mainstream musical industry world. What was it that made you shift into a more transformative way of expressing yourselves musically?
Well, what a great question. The true answer is that in the midst of following our teenage dream, to become, what we were hoping to be the next biggest band in the world, dream big, we 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 were sort of presented with this other path, and it sort of stems back 15, now almost 20 years ago. My brother and I followed our wild, incredible mother across the seas to New York City. She'd had um, a change of heart and left our father and went to reclaim her voice. She was in the original touring cast of Hair,
Oh, wow.
and she had this call to go to New York. And while we were still quite young teenagers, she moved to New York City, and one by one we followed. And my brother and I, beautifully wounded by that experience, and also found each other in New York City after finishing high school and a little bit of university. We had this crazy dream to sing in harmony as two brothers and take on the world, take on New York City. And it was beautifully naive and an incredible beginning to our young lives. And over the course of 15 years, we went from little dive bars to opening for Coldplay and Pink and Rod Stewart, Bon Jovi, a bunch of different things. We ended up signed on Interscope, and we lived out a big chunk of what we were dreaming and hoping for. But in the middle of the experience, which was tumultuous and dynamic, and a little bit like VH1 Behind the Music without the fame, we discovered this calling. We had this gut feeling. It was like, well, let's develop and nurture other voices. Like, we really want to do that. And we finally, in 2015, followed that gut on a break from touring, and came out to LA and started writing for other first-time voices. But we really quickly looked at each other and said, "This isn't it. This is what it seemed like. This might be it, but this isn't it. This is more about the music industry. This is more about helping people write a hit and become successful. This is not it. What is it?" And we were quite frustrated by the feeling because we'd relocated across the coast to do it. And in this 1 hour download, we were driving, hopelessly lost to this session. We had this idea, and the idea is the same idea that we're charged with today, which is What if we became someone's brothers? And what if from inception, with their permission, we walked a multi-month experience to get to know them like maybe no one was asking to? And what if we held up a creative reflective mirror through a series of stages where they could get to know themselves musically and themselves as a voice? And what might occur if we do that, and what kind of song that's in their soul might be born? And so we set about doing it, and about 5 people into what we now call the songwriter's journey, we discovered it's for voices from all walks of life. We discovered that, speaking about you, Jenny, the rock star wanting to come to the surface, we found that this world is filled with unique, distinct, original, radical voices that have, for the most part, been inhibited and haven't fully given themselves permission to play out all the way out using voice and music as a medium.
And over 1,000 songs written, we realized beyond the songs, it's really about the power of the human voice. That, through our ancestry and our evolution, we weren't given claws or any other thing that to protect us or to empower us. We were given our voice. And we are what's known as complex vocal learners, which means that we can tune to the other person we're speaking to without knowing it. We have this inner rock star soul, all of us. It's our peacock's tail. And over time, if we don't recognize that, we're going to become the chickens that can't fly, because we need to use it or we lose it. And so we've found this new calling, this new mission, which is to help people wake up to this incredible superpower that they have in their human voice, and also their innate musicality. Born as babies, being able to raise our voice to get what we need, use the power of our voice to call the attention of our mother. And very, very early on, we're able to utilize this innate musicality to recognize rhythm and tune to know that's our father's voice, an octave lower than our mother's voice. And so we have this beautiful gift, and we want, our mission is to help people recognize it in themselves.
It's beautiful. I'm really fascinated that you both felt that calling together. Is you must be very close, because it could have been that when you were in that mainstream musical industry with it, signed up to a record label, that one of you was feeling this pull and not the other, but you both felt it. Was that because of the journey that you'd made from Australia, that you both went through that initiation, as it were?
It depends who you ask.
I want to say it might be past life.
Do you want the normal or the woo-woo answer?
I was going to say, I think it started in ancient Egypt.
No, I'll give you the normal answer. No. Well, look, 2 brothers moving their young families out from New York City to California, we were clinging to each other for survival, in a way. And that's a beautiful thing. And from necessity comes people's greatness. And from day one, I'm almost 4 years older, but from the moment he came in, it was like, we had this camaraderie, and it was always complimentary. And, when we'd play sports, he'd be the batter, I'd be the bowler. And, in singing, we don't have the same voice. And so it's complimentary. It's, there's harmony, there's unity. And yeah, but I guess the more woo-woo answer is that, we've waited a long time for this. And, the rock star journey so far was more, it seems to this moment, a preparation for being able to hold a space for others to recognize that, no, even though they've been an investment banker for the last 20 years, inside them is this rock star that wants to wake up and go, God, I'm alive. And here's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and here's my voice, not just what, my family told me I need to go do with this life that I've been given. And the complex answer is, people that come to work with us have had a heart for music and felt like maybe there's a song in them, and maybe there's a voice in them that they've sheltered or inhibited themselves from using, or what we call the small voices, that has inhibited or stolen the microphone from their life, and so I would say half the people that we've gotten a chance to work with along the songwriter's journey in our online course, Reclaiming Your Big Voice, and some of the other ways we work, half the people have had song and a singing voice inside them that they just left by the wayside. They either got burnt and wounded early. They went to sing and like, oh, I love this, and someone was like, shh, not so great. Try sports. Or their mum was like, we don't sing in this family. Or some kind of wounding took place when music was actually truly a calling for them.
Stop making a noise.
Exactly.
Right.
And what we've also discovered is, in the world, we've created such a pedestal, such a stage audience relationship with music over the multiple generations, where we truly believe everybody is a singer. So if you have music and a voice that you've always been like, oh, I want to do that, that's one thing, and we urge you with all of ourselves for you to follow that. We also work with people that are truly scared and excited, and know that if they just used the medium voice and music, that they wouldn't be left the same. That music is this incredible medicinal modality that brings the human being to the forefront, and holds this safe space, this sacred container that resonant music provides, that is beyond all of us. It's an ancient human.
It is our
right.
sacred right, and the voice, even though it's our most powerful weapon, is so vulnerable. So, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We don't believe that. In fact, we get evidence every day that words, other people's words, dismissive or shut down or, dampening words, actually, one word can shut someone down for the rest of their life in their voice, and the repercussions of being shut down in the voice show up everywhere, particularly in the confidence of the human being, the ability to say no, set boundaries, have boundaries themselves, keep their word. It's like it shows up, in the ability to ask for what you need in relationships and at work. So reclaiming the voice, which is not just here, it's in the whole body, we've found it to be, a profound journey that almost every human we meet is on some way along the path to reclaim it, or have already reclaimed it. So it's profound work that links us to our ancestors through our musicality.
Yeah, that's what I've discovered in I'm beginning to discover in your work, in researching, that this isn't just about people who want to learn to sing. This is for everybody. And one of the beautiful phrases that I picked out of your mission statement was for people who want to be radically expressed. What does it mean to be radically expressed? Me, who loves being radical.
Yeah, what a fantastic question. Well, to us, it's not always what the world thinks. That it's safest to first imagine how distorted the narratives out there around the human voice are. They're wildly distorted. In fact, in so many ways, it might be one of the more distorted parts of our pop culture, is the idea that singing is for the few, being radically expressed is for the few, and the rest of us should watch those that are radically expressed. So number one. Number two, that if you're not great, then don't try at all. What a great myth. That it's as if someone and everyone around you hasn't told you you're excellent and you should make it, then don't try at all. And then lastly, if it's not going to be your career and your profession, and you're not going to be the next Coldplay or Lady Gaga or Adele, then don't try at all. So there's been so many pop cultural limitations, and then enter the human being's own inhibition. And our inhibition, we gather like little sacred little wounds around our voice that we've passed on these wounds to each other, because so many of us haven't felt empowered and connected in our voices, that these wounds come from our family units, our tribes, our communities, our societies, on what is okay and not okay to do in terms of your expression. And so much of our work is not about becoming in rebellion to those narratives. It's about seeing them for what they are and bringing all those little small voices, we like to call them, under your wing and embracing them and coming home to the actual reality that here inside you, given to you, as we like to refer to in our work around the voice, that you have this distinct whole body instrument to live in and be in this lifetime. And that you actually came out and came to earth entirely equipped. And that when we turn back inward, we realize we're not really broken. We might be fragmented. We're actually gifted everything we need to be radically expressed. And the language of your expression is experience. It's not about becoming better and technical. It's about inviting yourself to fully experience what's already here, right where you are as it is. So if you're 45 and never sung, if you're 70, sung all your life but haven't sung for 20 years, if you're 12 and you've been singing since you were 3, it doesn't matter. Where you are right now, how much permission can you give yourself to get curious about what the experience is like? And that's usually when someone goes, oh my God, I'm a playground. And then we help them sculpt and play and carve. And nature has a way of helping you cultivate it.
Yeah, and radically expressed is different for everyone. And we call it your big voice, being in your big voice, as opposed to being the small voices. And by small voice, we mean an automatic negative, almost like an alarm system that gets triggered every time we go to voice ourselves radically, or just even in just being in our big voice, express ourselves in front of others. And when it comes to the voice, in particular singing, we find that there's about roughly 5 small voices that seem to be in everyone's choir of small voices, because often it's not just one, but often we have this whole choir that is louder than the big voice internally. And often we've internalized these small voices from something someone else has said, or just a general assessment or comparison between us and the rest of the singers out there, or the people that we're admiring and want to compare ourselves to. And so in no particular order, the small voices that we've found are, I'm not good enough. My voice isn't enough. I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve this. Intrinsically, I feel like I don't deserve the value of this voice, this experience. A common one amongst women we find is, I'm unsafe. I raise my voice and all kinds of untoward things can happen, including physically or mentally, emotionally. And that's a hard one to kind of shatter, because it's often in the body as trauma. But, there's a lot of wisdom to kind of move through that, through the voice. And then a big one today with the Instagram culture and all of that is that it's not perfect. It's got to be perfect, but it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm too much is another one that European cultures, especially smaller European cultures, experience.
Mm-hmm. And Australia,
like the tall poppy syndrome. Yeah. And I think we inherited it from the British. It's like, get in your place.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah,
don't get ahead of yourself. Be self. Dissuading.
Yeah, almost self-limiting as a means of well done.
Fitting in.
Well done being self-limiting. Good
don't offend those around you by being
hand up on that life trajectory.
Well, most of us have experienced in some ways at least 3 or 4 or 5 small voices. We consider that it's a choir that has over the course of a lifetime, and especially when we're kids, we gather these small voices. These are little fractures that are caused in the wake of something that hurt. and we make it mean that about ourselves. So these little small voices don't go away easily. And we basically, the definition to us is anything that is an automatic and negative leaning thought, feeling, sensation, or emotion that triggers in the mind body to warn you that maybe being all of yourself or all of your voice might be not a good idea because it didn't work out last
Exactly.
time.
So the radical act, to get back to your question of expression, is just being your big voice despite the small voice. So
Wow.
for you, it could be rock and roll soul, like letting your hair out and letting it go, and really, you know, popping out past the I'm too much and being big, right? Like bigger than big, huge, right? And for someone else, it might be like, you know, expressing the sadness that they have in themselves gently and softly, like you know, allowing them to be vulnerable because they've had to be strong all their life. You know, so it's everyone has this different, unique, big voice.
Yeah.
And so radical expression looks so different for everyone. And
It does.
and so so we think that, you know, to answer that question again, you know, radical expression is unique for everyone, and it really is about kind of taking those small voices, instead of waging a war with them, taking them under your wing and saying it's okay. You know, don't look if you don't want to, but we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to do it anyway, you know.
I
Yes,
love
a lot
that
of people don't
idea.
want to hear them.
I love that idea of the small voices all making a choir. That is
They
so
do, right?
profound. That is
Well, they
profound
are. Yeah.
in itself. Yeah, because we
Yeah.
can't we often hear them as a choir rather than individually.
Exactly.
That is such a beautiful metaphor.
So great. Yeah, and we'd like, you know, we don't claim what we're, you know, what we lead people through, and the methodology we're hanging out in conversation around, Jenny. We don't claim it's easy. It's not easy for us. It's not easy for any of us to form deep new relationships with this choir inside us. You know, it would be much, you know, obviously as human beings for generations, we've tried to sedate, avoid, fix, lock in rooms, these small voices, you know, tried to break up the choir, you know, steal their sheet music. You know, we've all tried all of it. But the truth is, these small voices don't go away by force. They go away by embrace, or they go away by inclusion. Seeing them for what they are, hearing them out, however, no longer leaving them with the microphone. So what occurs when someone befriends their small voices, slowly but surely, you know, eventually that dissonant harmony that the choir is creating, you know, turns into an amazing choir that you not only are okay with, but that little choir that got hurt in the past, in other years of your life, you know, they feel safe again under your wing. So, you know, when we propose to do it anyway, we understand that it's going to be uncomfortable. You know, one of our main themes to move into daring to suck, as we like to call it, is to become comfortable being uncomfortable, and none of us are spared to have to form a relationship with being uncomfortable, especially en route to being your radical expression.
Yeah, daring to suck is the methodology we take on to be radically expressed. And by daring to suck, we mean just what is the next thing you could do to express yourself without thinking about it. You know, it's like walking the plank or jumping off a cliff. It's that moment where you lose your inhibition by doing it. It's an active rather than passive expression. And you know, what we find is that everywhere we have to be performance ready. In most of the domains of life, we have to be performance ready. We have to get ready for this. We have to rehearse. We have to practice. We have to, you know, learn our lines and get it right. You know, and we're taught that from a very young age. And so we want to kind of bring people back into the kindergartner state where we could make mistakes, where we could be, you know, where we could be forgiven for daring to suck, and so we want people to experience that freedom again.
So this is a much bigger context than simply learning to sing or learning to sing with your voice. and it has a much more expansive consequence. And I'm thinking from the point of view of taking it back to Instagram, and the fact that we are on an online world where so many more people now are having to express themselves, well, because we actually can't get out to talk to people for a start, but that presentation and communication and lives have become, especially in the last 12 months, the new normal, whereby people have had to get over their fears of actually just speaking on speaking on camera. And this is a lot of our audience, a lot of our readers are entrepreneurs, and this I know will resonate with them, because this is a fear that I hear and see every single day in any Facebook group, is people getting over the fact of just actually getting on live and speaking, let alone singing. Like singing is kind of, that takes it up to a whole new level. So I'd love you to talk to us about, you divide your work into three pillars, which is that, first of all, I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, is that everybody is musical. That's an ancient thing. Yeah, that is that we all have a musical capacity. And I'm thinking about how in indigenous tribes, and many years ago, gosh, not so very long ago, even in pubs, we could sit around and sing Irish songs together, just for the joy of singing. And before that, it was chanting and a ritual and rites of passage with the voice. So something that also just popped into my head there is about ministers when they stand up in the pulpit, is that they have to project, obviously that they have such conviction in faith, whatever it is. And I'm not religious, but I have observed this in watching orators and vicars and ministers, when they get it into the pulpit, is they have to project with their voice. So they've had to get over this whole thing about speaking up and presenting and performing, because they've got lives to save. They've got souls to save, actually. Yes. And strangely enough, last year I attended my mother's funeral in Glasgow, and I remember in the service that this minister got up and sang a hymn, and he had no qualms whatsoever. I mean, maybe you should get a minister in as well. He had absolutely no qualms, and the first note that he uttered was like, it kind of jolted you, and then he just got into it, and all he could think about was his connection to the divine and an expression, and then actually it was very, very grating and very, very beautiful. So I'm really seeing the bigger, more primordial context of refinding your voice. This is what I really, really want to to share, be this bridge between your work and the world, is because I really believe in that this is such deep and necessary work. So tell us about the three pillars. Tell us, just to go a little bit more about the three pillars.
Well, just while we're on it, because we could speak all day on musicality, and it's been a 20-year research of mine and ours together. And like you said, it really, I mean, the greater context is, in a chaotic universe, we have this miraculous existence of a planet where there is these life and these sacred laws, harmony, rhythm, you know, all of these sacred universal laws actually apply to music, such that I truly believe that music is our direct connection to God. And if you don't believe in God, then these sacred laws exist. Science has recognized them, and so perhaps that's the divine. But music is um, our safe harbor from the chaotic uh, dominance that's out there. I mean, you go out of these sacred laws, and we find chaos everywhere. And so music brings us back to the preeminence of harmony and away from discord, and it aligns us with ourselves and who we are. And what we've found is that in studying hundreds of what we call people's musical cosmology, meaning, their musical through line, their musical roadmap, their keynote, what we find is that basically if you listen to all the music again, and we're asking you, all the listeners out there, to go back and give yourself a weekend where you listen to all the songs that you truly loved in childhood, and then all the songs that you truly love now. And by love, we mean when that song comes on, your foot starts tapping, you're overtaken, you're flooded with, all of these amazing feelings and moods, your mood shifts, memories flood in, it overtakes you. Why is it that you love that music? And if you listen to them, can you, like we can you see if you can find this through line? Because that through line speaks to your soul's resonance, your musical resonance, because you're attracting or you're drawn to songs that reflect who you are. And so that through line then mirrors who you are. And so we're really excited to say that there has, in 1,000 songs and 150 journeys, there's not one person that's been remotely similar to the next. Everyone is even more unique than their fingerprint tells them. And their musical cosmology speaks to that. And why it's important to everywhere else, whether you're a speaker, an author, chances are, music is like a biohack, if that's the least sacred way of saying it. But like it really is, it's a way of a doorway in to understanding yourself, to knowing yourself. Pythagoras, Plato, they all saw music as this sacred gift to know thyself. And so, whether you're writing a book or you have to get up and speak, or you just have to get up and speak about a product on Facebook, that anchor, that groundedness that comes from knowing yourself is perhaps the best thing you can offer yourself. And music is a doorway in, or thanks to your ancestors, you've been given this gift, so use it.
Absolutely. Profound and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. Thank goodness you heard this calling and created the body of work that you're doing now. So I am thrilled to be participating in that. So you've got a songwriter's journey, which is coming up this year. In fact, this is work that you do all year round. But you've got a songwriter's journey coming up in my time zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's actually called Reclaiming Your Big Voice, and
Right.
it's the first European time zone we've done, which is amazing. This is the second. This is the second time we're doing the course. We did it last year. For the first time, it was amazing. We wanted to create a course. Well, firstly, that was purely virtual, and we also wanted to create a course for someone to dive into our work and sort of dive into the foundations of what it means to be in your big voice. It is a tremendous amount of fun, and it's a safe container for all voices, from all walks of life to discover, rediscover, claim or reclaim, connect to for the first time or reconnect to, and be empowered to the voice that they've been gifted this lifetime. And, to speak to what you said before, Jenny, so many people right now, and you think about the pressure cooker of the global village we're in right now, are being forced to the forefront to speak up and to sound out themselves, to represent themselves in a an exponentially increasing virtual self-marketing world, where you have to stand up and share who you are, so others can be with you. Excuse me. And in that way, more than ever, we need to sift through the BS and rediscover the reality. And when we really look, and I'm speaking for myself, when we really look at the reality, what we wish for from everyone around us is for them to be themselves and to share themselves. And what we most hope for is that they share themselves willingly without an attachment to being liked, acknowledged, successful, and needing of your approval. That we feel the most safe and inspired by someone when they show up as themselves freely and give you the space to say, hey, yes, I want to be around that, or no, thank you, but well done for being yourself. That we actually, we come to life when people are like that. And so we look at those kind of people and go, oh, I wish I could be more like that. Well, guess what? You can.
Like, think of it.
You really can.
Exactly. And think of it like, we often hear someone else's story, right? And we're like, God, wow, that's amazing. But we often think of our own story and think, oh, it's just a normal, there's nothing amazing about it. It's just a normal life, But, so we're asking people to retrain their ability to recognize that they are a life that's never been before and never will. That this life they've been given is a miracle. Nothing short of it. And when they can key into that and then sound out what that sounds like, whether they're talking about selling a product or sharing a poem they wrote, or speaking about something they're passionate about, or singing a song, it doesn't actually matter. And so, yeah, go ahead.
So when I first looked at your work on your website before I met you for the first time, and as a seeker and a quester of all my potential, that this is, and that's another characteristic that the magazine has, is for people who want to self-realize, who want to fulfill all of their potential, and they're questing, and they want to learn, and they want to grow. And I've done a lot of exploring and a lot of experimenting, and then when I found your work, and well, obviously it resonated because I discovered my voice 3 years ago. But also I realized, because everything that you've been saying comes through, even on your website, I was like, this is a part of me that I might never have discovered. If there's like, I feel now I feel like there's a bit missing. Just like, I want to do this work because I'm like, everything you've been talking about, it's like, I need this part to be whole. I need this part, and obviously I resonate with it so much because I understand the primordial nature of sound, and how the connection with sound and consciousness, and how sound is one of the earliest, most primeval forces of consciousness and nature. So yes. I'm totally there. So I'm like, wow, I never knew that this was such a big deal. Just like, yeah. This is a big deal, and the more you're talking about it, I'm like, I hope people are hearing this, because this is a big deal. It really does, because so many people will not have, until they hear this, will not have even thought about it, because we accepted that squashing of the small voice, or we accepted that time when we were small to we don't sing in this family, or
Exactly.
or you suck. Is we just accepted it. So this is like this is taking off a lid of something that is so big. I mean, your work, guys, is potentially humanity changing.
Wow.
Well, what a beautiful thing to hear you say that. I just want to say to everyone out there that's hearing you speak that what happens when we lift the veil, right? What happens when we lift the veil on who can sing and who's musical? You lift that veil, and you realize, and then you lift the veil on what it means. What will the outcome be if I do it? And then doesn't it have to be on Spotify and get chart on iTunes and win a Grammy? It's amazing how much we've built in this idea of, well, this is not for me, but now I'm going to do it. I need to make sure it's successful. So we lift both of those veils off. This desire to try singing and be in your voice and be in your expression, and you get rid of those narratives by going, wait, they're just old narratives that aren't actually true. And what floods back in is the realization that singing was meant for all of us, that you being in your expression and having freedom to use it and then share that with others so that it can be reciprocated without attachment to them liking or acknowledging it, not needing them, but of wanting them to receive it because you're proud of the expression you're now making. What occurs in your vitality? And that's what we want to share with each and every one of you. Now, if there's someone out there's like, I'd have no desire to be in my full radical expression of my voice, then fine. And that could be non-melodic or melodic.
Absolutely.
But most of us go, no, I want to be. And my soul, my spirit nature is saying, do so. What occurs when you step back into that vitality? When you gift yourself in your relationship to exploring the expression that you're meant to be in? And it's two parts. One is to experience it for yourself, and another is to share it so that it can be reciprocated in our tribe. And when you do that, what happens to your vitality? What happens to the flow of your energy? What happens to what we call, with Eileen McCusick, we're doing something with electric health? Or what happens when she talks about electric health? What happens when we resonate our voice and let emotion be felt again? What happens to your life? And if it calls you, and this is an invitation, if it calls to any of you, and I'm sure Jenny, you'll share how to be in touch with us around Reclaiming Your Big Voice, the course starting March 10, please come and find us. It is for you. It's for any of you that has a heart to explore this space freely in a safe environment.
Yeah, you said vitality, and absolutely. I mean, music and health is a huge area of study that science has shown. In so many ways, music can improve our health, calming us down, grounding us, tuning. The brain also gets an electrical cortical charge by listening to, certain frequencies. Sometimes even white noise gives us the charge, and so, we can really help our nervous system by being receptive to music. So the big voice that we find isn't just about making a noise and making a sound and projecting. It's also about listening. It's also about, when we're talking about the small voices and the big voice, it's tuning your listening to see which is wholly you and which are these other little fragments of pieces of, your experience that aren't necessarily who you are. And so there's like, can you be receptive to hear that quiet, more quiet, resilient, big voice? Because the small voices are screeching and screaming and making a big noise. Can you tune your listening in and be receptive to the big voice, and choose to give that one the microphone? It reminds me of this story of the camels. My spiritual teacher told that I love, and there was this man who'd never seen camels before. And so he figured out how to go and visit this camel farm. And so he goes out to the camel farm and he's looking around and He's fascinated, and it's time for feeding. So eventually he's watching them, and he sees that the man, the camel farmer, has tied up these big camels with this little rope, tiny little rope around their legs. And he's like, it's interesting. These are such big camels. Why do you only tie them up with one string around their leg? And the camel farmer said, well, when they were babies, when they were really small, that rope was a lot bigger on them, and it was enough. And they just think that that rope that was strong enough then is still strong enough now. And so, it just reminds us of how we are tied by a thin rope, and our freedom is right there. A sense of freedom is just one move away, one action away.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, that's fabulous. And I'm so excited to be sharing this work and sharing this message and actually doing it myself. I'm super excited. And I'd just like to come back to one thing, and one more question that you said in the very beginning, is when you had this realization that you were called to do a bigger work with your musicality and all of you, was you said we want to be everybody's brother, or you said something like that.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting is when the last time I spoke to you was that last week, when I came away and I was like, I'd love them to be my brothers. I was like, I wish they were my brothers. So
we already are.
Well,
we already are. I know.
We already are. Yeah. Well, that's yes, and we mean that.
You've now been adopted.
And to us, to us, it stems deep, not just our connection as brothers and partners in crime. And our connection probably stems much deeper than that. What we discovered is, if we've discovered anything, it's how to be in partnership. How to play. How to challenge each other. How to move past inhibitions, move past triggers, move past wounding, and meet in a shared vision moving forward. And it just so happened that a powerful partnership is when you complement and you also want to head in the same direction. And we can't control that magic. We're gifted that magic when we are. But part of what we've gotten to study as brothers is what creative and collaborative partnership can mean. So what that means for us and all of us in the world is, how can we collaborate toward the creativity that calls us? And we've really dined out on this, almost Hollywood film of like, to be a genius, you must be a lone wolf in a cabin, coming up with some, thing that's going to change the world, and do it alone. And there's been all these sort of like ideals created as if that has to be the way.
And for some it works.
And for some it does.
They have to do that road.
And yet not for most.
Not for most.
For most, it's about finding the right help and finding the right brothers, finding the right sisters, finding the right people in your life to, even if they're not doing it directly with you, to hold a space with you as you get to experience that. And so we've just been charged with being brothers to as many people as possible.
I would add to that beautiful sentiment that it's in the claiming. So, we ask ourselves to claim ourselves, but in the claiming of ourselves, we can then claim others and claim the relationship and say, yes, I see you and I claim this. I take responsibility for this relationship. And so whether we were brothers or not, our brotherhood is in the claiming of this collaborative mindset that we have together, such that we take 100% responsibility each of it and own it and say, I see you, I hear you, and here's a request for you, because I love you, and human design shows us that in a beautiful way that we are waiting patiently for these requests on us for the most part. And in that request, we want to be seen and heard in our uniqueness, so that then we can be freed. All of our energy inside us can be freed to be used, to be utilized, to be seen, to be heard, to be created. And we have such a gift for each other in our ability to claim and see and request and invite.
It's a new paradigm too. It's literally stepping out, not fighting and being at war with the old paradigm of the, dare I say, masculine bully, that the bully energy that's been around this world for a long time. It's actually entirely the opposite doorway, which is I am, and so are you. And how can we hold a space for each other as we step into our greatest potential, which is generally patient and one little action at a time, one little voicing at a time.
Totally. This is such incredible divine synchronicity, because the whole of the magazine is actually founded on the principles that you're talking about. Surprise, surprise. And a dynamic that is incredibly important for me to live by, and everything I do. And I absolutely I think that bigger conversation is another conversation we need to have. It's a whole other interview, because I think it absolutely is the conversation that people are having right now, especially as you guys mentioned it. You guys are the first on the cover of the first guys on the cover of House of Preeminence, and the reason we did that, it was, and I figured out that that this isn't just a feminine magazine or a feminine platform. That if we really were going to come back into balance and into world balance and everything, that we have to start what we're just talking about. So your presence in here is actually much more symbolic than the gorgeous, incredible, songwriter's journey. It is actually, you are actually standing for this greater principle, and I am so excited. It is no wonder that our paths came together, and we're starting to do this. So guys, we are going to, all the links and everything, all the information is going to be in this feature, and I am going to share this as much as possible. So I just want to thank you so much for your commitment to the work and this openness to be brothers to everybody. This is a very rare form of selflessness. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be part of this movement you're creating. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
So let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll.